I have spent all day in this room filming some incredible guns. Some shotguns, some over and unders, some hammer guns, even a rifle. Welcome to the Holts Auctioneers November 2025 main sale. This one here is where we're gonna start because I've never looked at one on the channel before, but it's always been a little bit of a fascination of mine. It is by the giant Miroku label, a Miroku made in Japan, a G12 President. The President range was Miroku's answer to the Browning custom shop, partly in their own country, given that they were making great guns before the Browning relationship to display what they were doing. They had the craftsmanship and ability to make something more interesting than what they were from 1980s with Browning onwards, and this is part of it. This particular one is a 28.5-inch 12 gauge fixed choke quarter 3/4 born in 1985. Most stats say that there was only about 1,000 of these ever made. However, before we go into the details of it, I actually been doing my homework on these, and through the miracles of AI translation of Japanese websites, I found a price list from 2024 with one for about 10 grand it worked out at in yen. Whether that is correct or not, I don't actually know, but that's as interesting a thing as I've found out, that these things still exist, although obviously not imported to the UK.
We've had enough of this nonsense.
Given that we've got one, let's have a little look over what you get for 2.5 grand in lot 1604. Oof, it's a very pretty Miroku. Starting at the back, we have a decelerator pad with that hard thing. I don't know if this was factory or not, but the fitting work is exemplary. It measures up to 14 7/8 inches. That's a reasonable length. We have a very nice American walnut stock, which in reality looks a little bit like their modern grade 3, 4 or 5. It's simple and elegant and I really like it. Silver unengraved escutcheon on the back there. A rosewood grip cap by the look of it with a ivorine drop with a white liner there. Very of the era. Reminds me of the old HSWs of the 70s where they had that same thing, or the diamond grade even in this kind of era. We've got hand checkering, no pistol grip, and with that grip cap on, it actually makes that grip almost perfectly full. For those of you who've used Mirokus or Brownings before, you'll know the grips on most production guns are pretty short. This one actually feels really good, big, and matched up with a beaver tail forend, which is pretty standard again. The real presidential part, other than these little accessories with the grip cap, we've got an extended trigger tang, which is lovely hand engraved, and a hand engraved action. It's ornate stylized acanthus, and you've got a dog and pheasant on the left side and a dog and duck on the right, and on the bottom it is just that standard and classic Miroku style scroll. Trigger guard's got a dog and a duck on it, in its own Miroku style. You can't hate it. The G12 is the game scene. I believe the G11 is the one below, grade 11, grade 12, grade 13. G11 is scroll only, and G13 you'll see all manner of customs, black golds, incredible engraving work. A real display of what these guys in the factory are capable of. .28.5-inch barrels with a 13mm parallel rib with a tram line down the middle and a double bead sight, choked quarter, 3/4 or improved cylinder and eye mod, depending on how you like it. This gun is in absolutely lovely condition, to be fair, almost unfired one would say, and for the price, if you're into your Mirokus, this would be a great gun to grab and have a go with, or at least add to your collection as your, I don't know, it's not really even a talking piece, just a really lovely thing to own that's also practical, not too shiny, and as we know, this action can take abuse for days. They are superbly, superbly put together. A lot of that in part is to do with the fact that they receive so much hand finishing. And the Mirokus still today have a large amount of hand finishing per gun. Lots of other guns you can change the barrels over on and do all kinds of other things. These guys still have a lot of handwork, and that comes from their roots by working with FN, but also from their original guns. Huge amounts of hand fitting, which isn't the best way of producing guns en masse, but is a great way of having a gun that looks, feels, and is put together in that way. There's two sides of it. There's some great guns that are machine made and clipped together really nicely, and there's some that require that hand fitting, and that adds a very different flavour to a gun. And I think, to be fair, at the price point that these are at, you would expect some hand fitting, and you've got it, so that's great. This auction has a heap of very normal, very usable over and unders. There's a bunch of plazas, there's a Krieghoff, load of really nice Brownings, Guarinis. They've got this Rizzini here, where is it? That's just absolutely lovely. And A Miles done one as nice a Rizzini 28 gauge by the look of it as you'll probably ever find, lot 1688. All the way through to your slightly more weird and wonderful. This is a lot 1674, it's 1500 to 2 grand, it's a Beretta SO2, continuation / remodeling of the S2, which is the mid-grade sidelock from Beretta back in the day. I believe this one's about 1984, but I believe the SO2 at that point sat as their entry-level low wood, low engraving spec sidelock, but still more or less the same as the higher grade ones. And I could be 100% wrong on that, but I could be right. I feel like I need to go and actually verify that information. But this is a lovely gun. Just can't see a problem with it for the money. You have, like with most Estos of the era, got a crack in the horn there, but only on the top right, whereas all 4 of them I've seen done on other guns. If you're after a really nicely built sidelock gun, this is her, with a little bit of light refurbishment, which you can get away with. I know Simon loves guns that are completely original. I don't hate the idea of refurbing something that's a bit more modern. Certainly if you're going to use it as a workhorse, bringing it back up to scratch for you to put all that wear and tear on it is kind of okay. Certainly something like an SO2 that's relatively common. Hi Simon.
Morning.
We've got a gun that we both actually were quite interested in for 35 seconds.
Well, it's beautiful to look at. That's why we're interested in it. We like beautiful things.
Lot 1413, a 1915 built, unnamed, retailed by International Arms, 29 5/8 inch, 12 gauge side by side with pistol grip, raised rib, all the things that should be very interesting.
Absolutely.
Why isn't it?
Well, it is interesting. It's still interesting because it's beautifully, ornately engraved to a very high standard. It comes with problems. It's not perfect. It is an auction after all, so we're not going to see perfect guns all the time.
But it's priced to
it's
not be
priced
perfect at 400 to 600. It's maybe too attractive.
And some may say it's cheap for a reason. So we have got a few issues here. The left wall is at 16 thou, which is not thick. We do have a few issues internally with the lock plates, the rear trigger. There's a lot of things to fix there. There's more than one thing to fix here. It needs the attentions of a competent gunsmith. In its current state, it's for collectors of really beautiful engraving.
For sure.
You need to spend some money on this, getting this back up to full fettle. But it's a beautiful gun. I mean, the underside of it is absolutely stunning. That pigeon down there, it is a pigeon gun. It's a sidelock, non-ejector, German, as you say, 1915. So a period of history that's really interesting. The trigger guard is beautiful. The butt plate is what I first saw when it was in the rack, because
yeah, I mean,
it was stored barrels down. And I went, wow, I want to see the rest of that gun. And that's some serious work right there.
It's got like a sour vibe to it, doesn't it?
It has. We can't find any information on International Arms at this period. If you Google International Arms, you're going to get the phone book about the International Arms trade. You're not going to get any real details. And if anybody has any information on International Arms, because the internet is a broad church, please do pass it on. Comment if you've got some insights into International Arms operating in 1915. But we believe they were a retail outlet retailing a high-end gun like this made for live pigeon shooting.
I don't know a lot about history, but one would have thought that in 1915, the international arms trade out of Germany wasn't rife in this direction. And the name International Arms is a very Anglo word for a 1915 sold German gun.
Yes.
Any theories?
Look, it wasn't made in 20 minutes. It was made over a period of a year and a half. The engraving probably took quite a long time as well. So, I mean, it could have been started pre-First World War.
Proof to 1915.
Proof to 1915.
Okay,
So
that makes some sense.
These things have a shelf life before they actually hit the market. So
Certainly in 1915, they were quite busy for a few years.
Exactly. So you don't just look at the date and go, oh, well, it's bang in the middle of the First World War. Everyone was busy. What's this doing here? It's a little bit more complicated than that. But it's an interesting one because nobody decided to put their name on it. And they put an awful lot of work in and left their name off.
I guess if it was sold to the West, post-World War One, having German names all over it probably would have not increased the value somewhat.
No. It's one of the reasons 16 bore is not fashionable in the UK, never was, is because it was always considered the German calibre, and anything German was pretty much out of fashion from 1914 onwards. So
Yes, Mr. Reinhold.
Yes, it's an interesting example from that period, but it's got issues. It's got problems. You have to be aware of the problems. This is why we do condition reports, because on the surface, it's stunning. You look deeper, it's got problems.
Yeah, diamond grip running through the pistol grip as well. I mean,
It's got signs of quality, little buffalo horn insert where a drop point would be.
A very high quality German gun.
It is, which is more and more astonishing that somebody left their name off it. It's got, having looked into it, it's got hallmarks of the sort of guns being made for notable people in Germany by high-end German gun makers, and it's probably come from one of their houses, but unnamed.
It's nice.
It's lovely to look at.
And sometimes that is enough.
It is.
How many guns do you have that you don't shoot? Quite a few. This could be the gun that you buy.
Shot occasionally.
Well, you could shoot this with very light loads.
You need to get some attention into the action.
Working.
Yeah, you need to make it working safely. That is a massive caveat there. So please, if you are interested in this gun, please do give it to a competent gunsmith and factor in the cost of getting it back into safe operation because it needs it.
You know, $4,000 later, you'd have a really lovely gun.
You would, but it's 400 quid reserve.
Yeah. So you'd have to be a passionate madman, of which there's lots in the world. So that's good.
But we've had this conversation before about the world of resto mods in cars. If you walked in and ordered something like this,
I wouldn't even begin to think of.
Most people would have to hide under a rock and cry when they saw the bill.
If you got this built new as cheaply as humanly possible with this engraving to this standard, 65
more.
As cheaply as humanly possible.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
If you got it built by somebody competent, with a name on it,
then
250.
Yeah, double it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Double your 65 at least, because but that's what you're looking at. It's worth the time to get that back to full fettle.
Oh yeah.
If you have the mind to do it, it will be a fraction of the cost of ordering something like that new.
If you wanted it,
and you don't need the cartridges to fly out every time you pull the trigger. Who needs that?
It's for losers, mate.
Exactly. You can pick them off the floor and put them in the bin, or you can pick them out the gun and put them in the bin. Either way, you're picking them out and putting them in the bin.
I hark back to a video we made once about you saying sometimes you just load one barrel. You could do just that here.
You can.
And it would work some of the time out of that one barrel.
Yeah.
It's pretty, though.
It's lovely, isn't it?
All right, should we look at something more sensible?
Let's do it.
What is this? An AYA Model 37. I haven't seen one of these in a while. Not very stylish by modern standards, but beautifully built. Next up, locked 1758. A J. Dougal and Sons, built in 1905. This gun is interesting in itself, but it's got a really cool story. It's got some really interesting provenance. So we'll get into that in a minute. But for now, let's look over the gun. At the front, you've got 28-inch barrels, and they have been nitro reproofed in 2025. So they are brand new proof, which is pretty handy. One presumes they may have been out of proof slightly, but the fact they've been reproofed with nitro is good news. That means this gun is good and safe to use. It's nice and tight on the face, like this is a gun in great working condition. The action itself is lovely, ornately done in heavy acantha scroll, or acantha scroll. It's not particularly heavy by modern standards. It's a really nicely figured stock for the era, nice and strong at the front with just enough patination at the back, certainly on this face side here, that's really lovely. It's only 14 inches long, which is somewhat undesirable, but you know, you could easily extend it. It features a horn plate at the back, and if you could take a 14-inch stock, that would be cool, but you could pop that off quite easily, extend that out to a nice length. I don't hate that. You've got a silver oval, it may have been gold, a well-worn oval with CJCM on it, which does relate to the owner, Mr. Mowat, which is on the case as well. Automatic safety, double triggers, all round a nicely built Scottish box lock. On the case here we've got CJC Mowat, and that relates to the engraving on the oval, and that very likely links to Captain Charles James Carleton Mowat, born 1885. First joined up in 1905, and he passed away in the Gallipoli campaign in 1915. More specifically, he served with the 8th Battalion Cameronians, the Scottish Rifles, and died on the 28th of June 1915 during the assault at Gully Ravine during the Gallipoli campaign. If you're aware of the Gallipoli campaign, you'll be aware that was a pretty miserable period in military history, and a lot of people died in what was inevitably a stalemate that we... Gully Ravine was a heavily defended Turkish position on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Allied forces, including the 8th Battalion Camerons, were tasked with capturing it to secure the high ground and open some routes towards a bay that they needed. The assault, like many things in Gallipoli, involved a lot of steep terrain, entrenched machine guns. During repeated attempts to revat at Gully Ravine, there were extreme casualties, including Captain Mowat, which is a sort of sad end for the original owner of this gun, but it is a fascinating story. So there you go. Underneath, or on the surface level, a really nice, usable, relatively good and honest condition box lock with a interesting and semi-dark history. Guns with provenance like this are always interesting. You know, it wasn't used in the war by any standard, of course, but the guy who did it did die in one of the more wasteful campaigns in World War I, which is sad. You could own this gun and look after it and treasure it in the knowledge that it had a hero who had it in the past. I think it's kind of cool. To be fair, I actually picked this gun out before I knew any of the history because I thought it was very pretty. I love some of the carving around the fences here, I love the engraving, and I love that just general Scottish look to the thing. Other than the fact it's got a 14-inch stock, I really do like it. The price is solid at $700 to $900. Just a lovely thing. Pretty somber history.
I took a brief pause from rummaging through the racks to collect one of my own purchases from Holts.
You bought a gun.
Simon joined me for the unboxing. More, I suspect, for the sport of finding faults than to share in my excitement, given I'd rather rashly bought the thing blind and without a condition report.
Perished is how we would describe that.
That story can wait for another day, but it was fascinating to see the process from the other side again, and of course, to have Simon expertly catalogue every flaw in what was meant to be my proud new acquisition. An elderly pigeon gun with plenty of character.
Move from barrels to action to woodwork.
Then, suitably humbled but also a little bit pumped up given that this is also Simon's sort of thing, it was back to the day's task, picking through the treasures and curiosities of the November sale.
Speaking of Gallipoli, this particular one apparently was used as a leg brace on somebody coming back from Gallipoli. If you look up the lot number, which is 1112, there will be a little backstory on there. Amongst the plethora of really nice side-by-sides in here, you get some in original condition, some restocked, and restocking is not really a sin. If a gun needs to be restocked to more modern dimensions, or the stock is broken and needs to be replaced, that can be great. This is a bit of an odd example because it's a really lovely Holland and Holland action that's been restocked in a very modern piece of walnut. I don't have a lot to say about it other than this is a very nice piece of wood that the more purist gun, traditional old gun lover in me goes, doesn't need to be on this gun. But I know there's a lot of people out there that would go wild for this, and that's okay. But if you want a showpiece, it's a hell of a showpiece. Simon, I'm roping you into a mild rabbit hole of interest here, but I saw these on the website in the pairs section and I couldn't help but not. They're lot 1310, 12 to 1600, Dahan shotguns. A very reasonably priced pheasant shooting pair of 28 gauges. Yeah. And I genuinely wanted to hate these, and I hate them less in the hand.
I mean, they're spec'd nicely, as in nice long stocks, pistol grips are nice shape, 32-inch 28 bores with multi-chokes, side clips for reasons we know not.
Because it's cool.
It's cool. They come up really well, which is surprising, but the stock dimensions and the way they are put together isn't without merit, I'll be honest.
So Dahan Shotguns is a American importer of Huglu who gets them made to his own spec.
Yes.
And as somebody who once had guns made in Turkey to his own
Yes, you
spec,
did.
there is merit in giving them better specifications than what they can produce as standard, and they do, when spec'd right and forgotten about the quality of build generally,
Yeah.
make a nice shooting gun.
Yeah. I can believe it. Do you feel when you bring them up to your shoulder that actually they would perform if you were in any way half competent, which you need to be with a 28 bore, to be honest with you. They have 70mm chambers, multi-chokes. They're non-ejectors. Please bear that in mind. They're not ejectors.
But you know what, from my experience with Huglu,
Yeah,
AKA who glued it,
I like it.
I'd rather the non-ejector, but also these do feel way less bad than most Huglus I've held.
Yeah.
Like they actually are not horrific to operate.
They're not. They're not. Safety catch is a little bit indeterminate, which isn't great.
I mean, it's for the money.
And they're 1,200 quid reserve.
Is really not a bad pair of 28 gauge side by sides. If you wanted to test whether you actually wanted to before dropping proper money into what a 28 gauge pair of side by sides would cost you, which is minimum of $9,000 probably for something else.
Yes.
It's not.
It's a good
bad.
entry level pair, isn't it? I mean, the woodwork looks attractive. The forend release catch is of a classic English style. They've got a bit about them, but you have to be realistic about what you're buying. They're not going to last forever because they are built on a budget.
Yeah, I mean, hallmarks of quality is one of your things you say regularly. What's the opposite of that? Hallmarks of Turkishness.
Lack of attention to detail.
Yeah,
is
and there's
the opposite of that.
There's an element to that, right? Of it's a very simply machined action,
Yeah.
very simply finished. The side plates are raised because it's the easiest way of matching
Just stick
side
them on the
plates.
outside, yeah.
The engraving is unpreferable. Better if it was plain.
Yeah.
The screws are cheap. Everything about it is done to a price.
The colour hardening is going to last a short time.
Yeah, but that's all right. You rattle
That's
can it
okay.
afterwards.
I mean, the jointing tube to monoblock isn't great.
The pairing is pretty atrocious.
The barrel weight, the overall weights do not match.
6.2 and 6.7.
Yeah,
so a
let's
whole
say-
5 ounces different over a relatively lightweight gun.
Quite a large discrepancy
Yeah.
and not a big space.
But they are a multi-choke 32-inch 28 gauge.
Yeah.
And you can have a lot of fun for not a lot of money. And I think that's what attracts me to them.
I don't disagree with that.
Regardless of how much they are. I mean, look at that.
It's not good.
It's not good. But if it was a 12 gauge, it'd be in the bin. But it's not. It's 28 gauge. And the fact that someone ordered these new to America, then brought them to the UK and had them proofed recently so they could actually be sold here.
Exactly. I've just noticed gas checks on the face of the action as well. They're doing things right. Whether they are cosmetic to attract people who are looking for hallmarks of quality, but you have to understand that a hallmark of quality can be also cosmetic if it's not done correctly.
You can roll something in glitter, right? I think
Exactly,
is a phrase
but you may
that
not be
Pluto
able to
done well.
polish it. Exactly. We'll keep it clean because it's a family show.
I really thought it would be complete trash, but clearly Dahan had a word with Huglu. And I know the guys at Weatherby, when they dealt with some Turkish companies, actually send things back and forth and say, you need to redesign this for us to want to retail it. This isn't good enough. And they will change that for them because they're gun makers,
they're
right?
willing to take criticism on board and make their product better.
Many years ago, when I worked behind a counter in retail,
Still doing French.
and the Turks listened to criticism. They got better at what they were doing, and the product markedly improved in a very short space of time. And I imagine they've continued to do the same thing: improve, and produce better guns.
Only to demand, right?
Only to demand,
Because if you can produce something dirt cheap and people will buy it, then happy days.
Absolutely, but they look at the market react in a realistic way, which is there's no point building something you think is good and not asking the customer what they want.
I always said it doesn't really matter the nationality of the hands building the thing. It's about how much of the F's that they give when they're doing the thing. Because most people can build things to a very similar standard. A machine's a machine, metal is metal. If you're buying quality metal, finishing it to the same standard, it matters not which country it's come from. Look at Miroku versus Belgium.
Exactly.
Brownings of that era. Exactly the same standard of build.
Exactly the same.
Many thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
These are better than expected.
Yes, they are. You can say that. Absolutely.
If a friend turned up with them, I'd say that was a cool toy.
Yeah. But then you're only looking, when you're standing around the gun bus at drinks, aren't you? Or at Levins's. You're not looking when you're 40 yards away on a peg. No one's going to see what you've got in your hand.
It's very much results-based at that point.
It's exactly that, yes.
Which, and in your opinion,
no one cares you're using a 28 bore, Johnny.
Simon, I hate to say, you liked 16 bore for a long time.
I do
and
still.
I feel probably more strongly about 16 bore than you feel about 28.
Probably, yeah, probably. But, we're not going to end up in a row about this.
Look, I think they're cool. I was happy to share them and show them. I don't know about you, I'm sure.
They're reasonable value.
They're incredible
for what they
value.
are.
It's a lot of fun for what they are.
Exactly.
That's as simple as that. You should not be embarrassed to put a bid on them. Unless you have taste and money, in which case make better decisions. But hey, where else are you going to find a pair of 28 gauges? I think there's actually another one in the sale, but they're not 32 inch.
But they're not 32 inch and they're not multi-chokes. So anyway, that's lot 1310.
All right, enough waxing. Let's look at something increasingly more serious. Next up is this little beauty, and I say little beauty, it's a bit of a niche one. They've got a few of these makers here in the auction, but this is lot 1602, an MT5S-20 Skib Su, the best gun Russia ever made, or the best shotgun Russia ever made.
Lord, we couldn't close our eyes.
Skib Su is an abbreviation of the Russian version of, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it, the Central Research Bureau for Sporting and Hunting Arms.
Центральное конструкторско-исследовательское бюро спортивного и охотничьего оружия.
It was founded in 1946 in Tula to make finer shotguns than they had been making. One presumes that pre-revolution Russia did make some very fine arms, but it's not an area of expertise I am particularly familiar with. Given that sort of heyday of gun making was back then, there's no reason to expect that there wasn't a time that they made fine doubles, or maybe they just bought British ones, seeing as their families were related to ours back then. But this is not of that era. This gun was made in 1974, has 26 and 5/8 inch barrels and a lightweight 20 gauge action. Meaning this action is a 70s alloy action. If you remember in the sealed bid last time, we had a look at some early alloy action guns from Italy, and I guess alloy action guns were not a big thing when I started in the gun trade, and nowadays they are a big thing, being made better than ever. But what's interesting is all the things that they relearned are actually on this gun. And Skib Sus are not to be trifled with. This is 1,500 to 2 grand. It's about as expensive as a Russian over and under gets. Obviously they make some higher grade 12 gauges that are worth more, but they do retain some collectible value, which is, I guess, for most people who just think of like Bakel and Toz, this is a little bizarre. There we go. That is how to take one apart. The actual base construction is pretty simple and extremely robust. Huge locking surfaces, a bite that goes in the bottom, and a locking drawer at an angle that actually sits on this huge rotating piece here. They are unequivocally strong. Alloy action with a huge steel face that's actually dropped and machined in and attached by 2 flathead screws in the center there. It's a double trigger with an automatic safety. You know, not that exciting as guns go, but it is well built and the factory does have interesting history. So we'll try and pop this back together quickly, which could be a touch of faff, or not in this case may be. It's definitely taken a different sort of route to standard over and unders. But Skib Su was separated from the Tula Arms plant in '58, and basically its whole point was to make high-end, better designed hunting weapons for the slightly higher ranking, the less comrade-y comrades. They made the MT5, MT6 and MT7 families, and the entire design philosophy was design quality and build strength with superb finish. And there's nothing about this, given its age, that is bad quality, and you see some of their over and under 12s which are spectacular. This one is a hunting gun, although they did make trap guns. I think in the MT5S 12 gauge, there's a report that it could take 150,000 rounds without breaking, which back in the day was quite impressive. Their whole point was to compete with Western makers so that their competitors could shoot a Russian gun that held up against the great names of the time. In the family, you had the MT5S, which was introduced in 1950, the MT6 and MT7, which were introduced a little bit later. A lot of those are super custom, competition-orientated double barrels, or even some drillings. And the MTS7 is, I believe, the most expensive gun ever created in the USSR, or at least shotgun. I presume there were some artillery pieces that probably cost a little bit more. These guns, in reality, are only valued by a limited few. You know, you go through some of the gun forums when I've been researching these in the past, and there's people that compare them as the Eastern version of Kragofs and Paratzis of the time. And I guess if you really do go back, that is not far from the case. The design is just looked at from a different perspective, and it does carry some cool Cold War history. Reality of this is it's a collector's piece. Not many people out there are going to want a lightweight 20 gauge for this price made by Skibsoo, which is a name that all of you should be familiar with in reality. It's not something that is to be trifled with. They made great guns. But if you're buying one, especially at this sort of money, there are some amazing 12 gauges that are actually going to give you a little bit more versatility maybe. But if you want a lightweight 20 gauge, 6 pounds, 2 ounce this one, then you're not going to go too far wrong with this, and you're going to have something interesting when you take it out of the bag, which for many people is why we buy multiple different guns. It's cool to have different stuff, and this is certainly different. I love the alloy action, I love the fact it's got that drop-in metal face, and the fact that it's from the era it is, with some of these cool design features, is special. You could make some cool memories with this gun, and it's definitely got more character than a lot of other things. And if you put it against some of the other guns that take this much handwork and have this much cool history, it is good value. And on that note, I've got not much else to say about it. It's interesting, and that's about it. Curious. It's curious. That's what it is. If I was to pick one bad thing about it, other than the fact that spare parts probably don't exist and the people who can work on them are probably limited, it is that it is a non-ejector, which might limit its use to some people. But if we're talking about a lightweight 20 gauge, you're not going to be pounding lots of ammunition through this. As a fun and enjoyable walked up gun that you could just keep in the cabinet, take out once or twice, and have something that nobody else in England probably has, or at least a gambling man would say you're never going to see another one in the field, it would be a great choice. The 1,500 to 2 grand price tag is about where these are at. That's not an unfair price. I've seen some of the 12 gauges go for solid money. Certainly the MT6 in their Skeet variant, I saw one of those go for big money once because of what it was and the provenance of it for sure, but the build quality is not to be trifled with. This is not your common or garden bagel.
Oh, I know! The pitch of that stock, that butt shape, I actually drew a trace around it because that is exactly the shape I want. The whole thing
Feels like a Kragov grip with that arm as well.
Yeah.
Short, small, manageable.
Yeah, I need to basically laser scan that stock and put it on something I like. I don't deal in Monte Carlo stocks at all, to be honest with you, for game shooting and my clients who I load for, so an odd one.
So much
but it's got
fun
a
with
lot
that.
of thought put into it, and for some reason,
And it's mintaculous as well.
I know, it's a cracking gun.
Obviously, when we come here, we try and find the more interesting stuff because we've covered over the years all of the more common or garden stuff, but I think it's worth diving into something that's actually a genuinely intelligent purchase for someone who wants to get into side-by-sides for driven game shooting. You like side-by-sides for driven game shooting?
I do.
You like this gun? I'd like for you to tell us about it and also why people should be moving away from over and unders to a more classy looking affair.
Because you don't have to spend a huge amount of money to get a really, really high quality gun. This one is particularly interesting. Like a lot of the things you buy at auction, it's not perfect. So it has been restocked, but it is of interest and remarkable because there's a lot to remark on it. If you pull it out, this is lot 1424. This, if you looked at it, you would say, this is a Boss rounded body.
The lock plate design is uncanny as well.
It screams Boss round body. The engraving style, though, when you go more deeply into it, is the classic Holland and Holland scroll engraving.
Very similar.
With the classic Holland and Holland name cartouche, but it hasn't got a Holland and Holland and it hasn't got a Boss name. But we're not going to stop there because the detonators are engraved in a Purdy style. And in fact, if we take it apart, we will see that this is a Purdy spring opener as well. So it's a Boss round body style, Holland style engraving, Purdy style detonators with a Purdy spring opening action, made by Henry Atkin.
Henry Atkin of Purdy?
Henry Atkin from Purdy's, yes, which is written on the underside of the action as well.
Of course, it couldn't
so
ever
it's got the best elements of all of the London trade, arguably.
That makes some sense, and it's put together to a standard that's not intolerable?
No, it's really, really nicely made gun. This is 1912.
I mean,
so
proper heyday stuff.
really the kind of the era you want to be looking at if you're buying an English gun. But you've seen it.
Is it broken?
It's not broken. It's a canted.
I like it.
Safety catch, so it makes it more easy to operate. We sometimes see canted top levers where the top lever, the back half is bent over. We see that on Boss occasionally as well.
And on every DT.
And on every DT as well, because it makes it more easy to operate. I've never seen it on a safety catch before. The stock is modern.
It's a left-handed stock?
It is a left-handed gun, yes.
But that looks like a right-handed safety catch to me.
It does, but actually...
That makes a lot of sense to have an angled safety catch.
It does.
It does feel good.
It does. Just ergonomic to operate.
Yeah.
So a lot of thought, a lot of care and attention, and it is different.
But inherently it is just a, what, 28-inch?
27 and a bit.
Okay. Regular game gun,
Was it
straight
28
hand
and a
stock.
bit? Yeah.
A good purchase.
It's a very interesting gun.
How much is it?
It's £2,000 to £3,000 in the catalogue, which is an awful lot of gun for the money.
Seems quite reasonable.
It's not going to suit everybody. It's going to suit some people. Left-handed, it is incontrovertibly left-handed. Left-handed triggers, left-handed stock. So, yeah, we have to bear that in mind. It has been restocked.
You could continue the process and restock it again.
You could if you wanted to, yes.
I really think that's a good purchase, you know. Like, if you're in for £5,000, all of those little attributes, it's interesting. It's not like the safest money. It's not like buying a Holland Royal, but it's actually a little nicer.
But you've got something
features.
different with lots of the best bits of the London trade.
It was ordered by someone who knew exactly what they wanted.
Exactly that.
And probably somebody tore their hair out for years making this work. And it's two brothers too, wherever they may be.
Yeah, because it's number 3 of a trio.
It really is the weird and wonderful that catches the eye in here, and lot 1550 is one of those. Something you don't see every day. Come and have a look. The first thing that caught my eye is this deep etched Damascus. It's a look you don't see too often, and I absolutely love it. Well, again, difference is beauty in itself. It's kind of a continental look, to be fair, to have this deep etching. It's Graham & Co. of Norfolk, and it's a 20 gauge. Well-worn checkering on the grip there, and I say maybe a restock or a rechecker on the actual main gun. And these guys were just a feed merchant by all accounts, so whether this was made for a client to his specification, I don't know. But you've got this raised rib on a 20 gauge with the deep edge Damascus, with this grip cap here, is just something you don't see every day, and I can't help but admire it. The engraving is nice, these fences are interesting, it's got that treble grip, kind of rounded on top there, a very different look. They say a change is as good as a break, but I think when you see things like this, it's a little bit when people have custom guns now that are just a little bit wild. It takes a brave person to make a gun that's different to everybody else. And when those guns are mechanically sound, a stylized difference that I always find interesting. You get pretty sick of looking at generic, however good the quality and the beauty is. So the hedonic treadmill of gun looks is real. You can get very, very jaded by high quality simplicity. They're stunning guns, and there's a few of them in here that are absolutely mind-blowing in terms of the quality, and you know, you'd be proud to own them. But to then see something like this, you don't see this every day. And as such, it's got to be appreciated. Lot 1598 is a rare one. According to my internet sources, or should I say the guys at Holt's internet sources, there is only 22 of these ever made, so possibly less in existence today. It is an Ithaca 7E, single barrel trap gun. And now we're gonna come over the top and I'm gonna take you through why this gun has a price tag that you may not expect on a single barrel gun. That price tag is $2 to $2.5 grand, which would be considered a lot, but to collectors, I'm aware that over in the States, the retail price on these is quite a bit more than that. This one was made in 1918. It's got a 34-inch nitro-proofed barrel, reproved barrel, I should say, with a ventilated raised rib. You've got a beaver tail forend with a push-button release, which is actually really delightful. The action is heavily engraved and gold in lead with game birds on the side, pheasants, an eagle on the bottom, a stag on the trigger guard, and then ducks on the offside. All of those game birds are surrounded by oak leaves and acorns in a stylized manner, and the checkering is out of this world in terms of class. Very un-British in style, but it's an American gun. I believe Ithaca gun was based in New York at the time. American walnut stock, orange silver's pad, and all round just a really remarkably good looking thing. It is worth noting that the gold is actually two types of gold. You've got yellow gold and rose gold in various areas, which is just, again, it's a nice touch. It doesn't have to be the case. The forend comes off with this button, which is beautifully engraved. You just press that in slightly and that forend comes off. It's so tactile. It's actually really pleasant. And if we take it off, we see the inside here, which is a classic Ithaca look, actually, even if it's on the single. I've only ever really played deeply with their doubles. The Flues Model 7A is in reference to Emil Flues, who painted it a 3-part lock design, which I believe was bought by Ithaca, and thousands of these guns were made, the single barrel trap guns. I would have presumed less than 10,000, I don't have an exact figure, but only 22 of the 7A was. 1918 sees an interesting intersection in the American gun making terms, as far as I'm aware, in that this was a point when high grade collectible pieces were becoming more common, rather than just everything being made for use. The American value I'd hate to have an estimate at, but it's a lot more than 2 to 2.5. Given that the right one of these in the right hands, certainly in this condition, which is very, very clean, only a few marks and age-related things, it's got to be $10,000 to $15,000, something like that, at a guess. I could be way out, but it's a solid guess. You've got hallmarks of quality and actual care and attention in the finish with the way that the metal work and the woodwork all goes together. Forend, tip, just the way it's checkered. All of these things take an unnecessary amount of time. This is as much a showpiece as it is a user, and this gun mechanically will last thousands and thousands of rounds. It's not just a showpiece, which is kind of nice. Emil Flues invented a few different things for guns, of which a few are in here. This is a very classy, very well-built single barrel. I love the locking mechanism. I love you've got this half moon on this side and a full circle on this side, so you've got double grip along the top as well as a bite on the bottom. It is unnecessarily strong for a single barrel, but this entire action design was designed to shoot thousands and thousands of trap targets. And I can imagine it actually lasting pretty well. What I do know is I'm going to have to go and do my homework on these to actually gain a true appreciation of what it is, rather than just the base value on it. The quality of build here, the quality of the checkering, as well as the mechanics are great. And, well, because it's an American gun, we don't get exposed that often, and now I feel the need to go and geek out. So that's a job for another day. For now, it's got to be appreciated. Lot 1500 is a really special gun, a really beautiful one. The lines and everything on this tickle me. It is a Thomas Johnson 32-inch 20 bore for under £1,000, and immediately that gets you thinking that there's something wrong with it. And in the description, although it was reproofed in 1972, the barrels are very thin, 13 thou and 19 thou. That's not very thick, which would mean this is not really one for use en masse, if at all. The gun was built around 1880 by Thomas Johnson, who trained under William Parsons. Thomas Johnson was known more for his big wildfowling guns, heavy-duty, hard-working guns, and I guess maybe that's where this 32-inch 20 gauge comes from. Nothing is new in the world, right? The 32-inch small bore is all the rage at the moment, but just goes to prove it's been around a while. You've got a grip safety. That's a really lovely touch, meaning these won't fire unless you pull that down. That's a sort of an intercept or a trigger block, if you like. The lines of the locks, the lines of the barrels, and the way that it's all put together is absolutely immaculate. It's probably been recheckered. It's definitely been recheckered. May have been restocked, although that could also be original. It's got a few repairs, and it might just have been refurbished, and that's the smell you get from it, or the the sense you get from it rather than a physical smell. It's got a wooden extension and a horn heel plate with a raised semi-scalloped rib all the way to the end. The sort of thing you'd own, chuck in a collection and just enjoy looking at. For a gun with a Jones rotary underlever, which is, you know, more from a period before this, and to be fair, at the point this was made, although we don't have an exact date, is very common, but also might be an indicator, because he made so many big heavy-duty wildfowling guns, that at this time would have had this lever to lock it all in. Could have been the case. Just a wonderful thing. And that's that. I think all boys, when they get into guns, want a pistol. In the UK, you can't really do that unless it looks a little bit more like this.
Well, I think you're right.
Because we're all born with a pair.
Absolutely, that's what we grew up with. You know, when this pistol-shaped stick in the playground, that's what you charged around with if you're my vintage.
A blaster, probably, of my vintage.
Yeah, so these are really just beautiful things, and they struck me as very interesting, but they became more interesting the more I talked to Rob about them, because he's never seen anything quite like these. Why have 2 barrels when you can have 8?
For those who are unaware, you can own muzzle-loading pistols off ticket. So this
Exactly.
is actually an enjoyable collector's piece.
It is exactly that. And the prices are coming down, so it's becoming more realistic to own these things. These are still quite expensive pistols. These are, the reserve is £3,000. But they are interesting and unusual and rare because of it.
But you can get into the market for all of them about
For less.
£400-500, right? And
Yeah.
have a really nice 200-year-old collectible pistol.
Exactly that.
What made these two stand out to you, Simon?
So they are 4-barreled for a start. So we'll get them out of their little travelling case here, and we will show you that, yeah, 4 barrels is automatically cool. But if you pull them onto half cock, 2-stage hammers on these, and you pull back the trigger guard, if I can demonstrate this, pull back the trigger guard and the barrels turn over
Double-sided nipples.
Yeah, to give you the other 2 barrels. And there's a pair of them. So they are beautifully made, beautiful condition as well. Interesting because of it. They're not perfect. There is a couple of little bits just, you know, not quite right, but then they're 1835, so they are quite old. And a little bit of rust here and there. But they still exist in good condition. But the really, really interesting thing was not immediately apparent to me on this.
Other than the fact that you've got a matched pair of 4-barrel pistols.
Which is, yeah, that is what drew my eye.
A pre-magazine era.
Exactly.
Pretty special.
So this is the highest rate of fire possible in this era of 1835. But normally on some of these pistols you have a captive ramrod, which is on a little stirrup.
It kind of swings
around,
yeah.
and then you can ram down your powder, your wad, your ball, and then off you go, put your percussion cap on.
Not that you need to do a great deal of reloading with these.
No, you just turn the barrel over and off you go. But when you do come to reload, the ramrod is hidden in the pistol grip. And not only is it hidden in the pistol grip, it's collapsible on a double thread.
I was going to say, that's not long enough.
No, it isn't, but it is if you extend it.
I mean, that's just a lovely piece of engineering nowadays, let alone when
It's
this
great.
was not just click a button on a CNC and magically print
It's great.
it out.
It's just fantastically well made and well thought out in this era.
Yeah, that's
and there's one in
really
each.
nice.
And they're still there. They're estimated at £3,000 to £5,000 because they're rare, they're interesting, they're unusual. Towelson of Marlborough is the maker. And they're just really beautifully made. And they caught my eye because of the 4 barrels. And then I looked closer and you get even more interesting. They're travelling pistols, so they're made for self-protection on the road in 1835.
With cloak and...
Yeah, because it wasn't just one highwayman and his horse. There you go, lot 680. And that will be coming up on day 1 of the auction. So we do 2 days.
One for old.
Everything in this room
and
is
one
on day 2.
The stuff we usually look at.
Exactly, the stuff we usually look at. But I thought it'd be nice to just have a little look at day 1 as well, and something.
You can get into collecting these. I
You
can totally
could.
get it. Like,
Yeah.
I begrudge some collections, but the concept of collecting antique pistols is cool.
Yeah, but the rules stay the same. Buy to the best of your budget things that you like, because it's about the pleasure of ownership.
Yes.
It's not about making a profit.
I mean...
And if you make a profit, happy accident. But actually, you're renting it until
it's a short
the next
time,
owner.
It's a long timeline into profit, I think, is the way to
it
look
is,
at it, right?
yeah.
It's just, I say it's better than money in the bank. It's about the same.
Yeah.
Except you get to take it out and Put your mask on, cowl, and run around the house. There's a couple of great rifles here. There's a 303 double I really wanted to look at, but then I saw this. A Karl Hauptmann bolt action from Furlach, Austria. And out of all the rifles in here, this is, I think, the one. And by the one, I mean the one that I'd actually want to own and hunt with and make memories with, and that's for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's kind of working grade, right? Everything about it is solid. It's not too fancy. There is some engraving we'll get to in a minute, but it's just a good quality rifle, but with all those things that make Austrian rifles special. Beautiful lines to the stock, beautiful checkering, raised cheek piece with a fold, octagonal to round barrel with properly fitted sling swivels, and that beautiful machine top rib that sits proud of the barrel there. Swing off sights, butter knife bolt, set trigger. All these things are just the reasons I love hand-built rifles. Certainly our continental brothers who make them do know how to make a great hunting rifle. The bore looks solid, although I have no guarantees of accuracy. All those things mean it's fancy enough to give me the gun jitters, but rugged enough that if I had to drag it through heather on the hill or through a bush after a muntjac, I would. And the 7x57 is a hugely versatile caliber that I'm a big fan of. I love this slim but deep forend. It's got everything you need to just hold on to it, but without being chunky. The overall weight, I don't actually know, and I don't even know the estimate. What I do know is you can find out on Holt's website, it's lot 1100. Just a well put together rifle that you could happily own. It's the rifle you'd pick up and go and hunt with and not worry too much about, but still have a great time writing memories with proper gun making.
Oh, that's cute.
It would have been wrong of me to leave this room without giving this gun plenty of attention. It is an Edwinson green 16 gauge. But unlike most 16 gauges, this one is exciting. It is a 1902 patent, triple barreled, single trigger, side lock ejector. Pretty special. With an estimate of 10 to 15 grand, it is not a cheap gun, but been coming here for 5 years and never seen anything quite like this before. Ergo, we're going to have a look at it. It's a 1912 built gun with a 1902 single trigger that fires all three barrels, all running on independent ejectors. It's got a 1909 ejector system patent in it, and overall actually isn't horrific. The way it handles and feels is remarkably good. So let's come over the top and have a little look back to front at some of the little details. At the back we've got a well-figured but classy piece of wood in 14 inches with lovely checkering, drop points and lovely fine scroll with 3 bouquets of roses on the side. Edwinson Green and Sun engraved, and on the bottom there's a lovely diamond of scroll work as well with a short tang on a straight hand stock. The forend is remarkably short, but a lot of this stuff is to keep the weight down. I mean, this entire gun is 6 pounds 15 ounces, less than the weight of a standard 28 inch over and under 16 gauge, which is truly remarkable. The barrels are configured in a triangular pyramid way with a lovely top catch that settles into the top of the action there. We pop the forend off, which is done with a push rod. We'll see a standard loop, and look at the width of that rib on the bottom. Take that out and we'll see that it's held together on that standard double bite, just like a side-by-side would be, except instead of 2 ejectors you have 3 independently running ejectors run from a single trigger. The refinement in putting this together is remarkable, from that tiny little safety to the fact that this detonation is beautifully carved with a cantha scroll which complements this fine scroll lovely. And to make a gun like this handle nicely and look elegant is one thing. But let's just take a moment to appreciate the creative genius that 120 years ago, best part of, sat down with a piece of paper, no computers, and said, okay, let's make this gun. But instead of making a non-ejector with, I don't know, 2 triggers or 3 triggers or some slightly more rudimentary firing system, managed to make this gun run with 3 separate ejectors. And it's genuinely remarkable. The way that you have 3 ejector rods coming out of the bottom there, 3 firing pins. I'd love to get inside this gun and look at the mechanics, but it would cost me 15,000 plus commission to buy it to be able to have a go at that. And then more importantly, the knowledge to put it back together correctly to make sure it runs is sparse. There's very few people I trust with great guns. There's even fewer I trust to work upon this thing. Not that it needs work, because as far as these guys know, not having fired it, but with snap caps, it runs and operates absolutely perfectly. I just still can't get over that some dude with a piece of paper and a bit of imagination and probably dozens of years of gun making experience made this work. One wonders of whether it was one prototype to get it running and then multiple attempts to get it right, or how this process actually went, but I never ceases to amaze that this gun and many older than it in here were made, you know, with candlelight, some of them on a workbench, with extremely rudimentary tools by modern standards. I just can't help but admire it, and I think the price tag for what it is remarkable. And these guys weren't the first to make a triple barrel or more than 2 barrel gun by any standards, but to make one that has lasted this long, that runs with ejectors and a single trigger. Of course, you can buy the triple barrels that exist now with a non-ejector and a single trigger, and they're okay, but they're not refined. This beauty, this absolute beauty. Wow. Just a large and resounding wow. Part of the best thing of coming to Holts is to see some of the cool quirks of gun making. I feel like this is more than a quirk. This is a proper champion of quality gun making.
Peter Dyson, a wonderful gun maker, of course. This particular piece he made for the Royal Armouries. It looks like it should be about 1780, 1790, date-wise. It was made
In what?
15 years ago, as I said. What I love is that, you know, we can still do it.
That was a lot of guns. That was a very gunny day. Remember, we look at a lot of these off camera and really have a good old go through. There's some incredible lots here, one of which I'm going to put a bit on myself. But it would be wrong to come here and not look at this. On the face of it, in the case, an unassuming, unexciting, webbly looking box lock ejector. But this is actually quite a rare beast. This is known as a Zeppelin gun, a aero gun. It's a Holland & Holland gun that was issued to pilots in the First World War to shoot down Zeppelins. You've got an off-cant top lever, so it's easy to open in gloves. Obviously, they were in an open canopy biplane or triplane, so actually having a easy to open top lever and ejector, so they could crank them out and put in the cartridges, which I believe were like ball and chain shot. They've got a special choke called the duplex choke, and they were all finished by Holland & Holland to extremely solid standards. This auction has got some really smart things on. In fact, some Woodwards and Purdy's that I really should have shown you, and an almost new boss. Big ticket items that, well, don't ever really come up. They're super special lots, and I should have looked at them, and I kind of regret that now. However, you can head to the website, have a look, and hey, we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching TGS Outdoors. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The channel would not be possible without the support of our amazing sponsors who keep videos coming to you week after week. If you really enjoy the channel and want to support it yourself, please consider becoming a member. Channel members get a bit of extra content. Today we're going to be talking about good shooting advice, but mostly you just keep us going, and we love the support. There's a great community goes on behind the scenes. Take care, guys. Goodbye, and we'll see you on the next one.
We've had enough of this nonsense.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Nick. Always for having us and letting us pour over one of the finest collection of guns, including that.
What, the blue one?